Reality is optional. Researchers have been moving towards a kind of virtual reality that is directly wired into your brain rather than just having something in front of your eyes and headphones, and it's actually incredible. I did not think that this kind of technology would be possible, but here we are. Now, each sense does have to be replicated, and in order to do that, you have to bypass your sensory system and go directly into the brain. Cochlear implants are already doing something similar. They are bypassing the hair cells and going directly into the auditory nerve. I will say that people who have cochlear implants will tell you that it's not the same as their hearing if they used to have it, and it can be rather unpleasant at times. You will find that a lot of this technology comes from prosthetics. For example, you can simulate smell by bypassing what would normally serve as the hardware of smell and going directly into the brain, and something similar has been done with sight. You can take an image from whatever's in front of you and then translate that into electrical signals. It's still pretty basic, just shapes and shadows, however the technology is getting better. However, if you can take a real image, you can give people whatever image they want. That means that could be something that is very significant for virtual reality. And for touch, too. I'm not talking about wearing a full-body haptic suit. I'm talking about wiring directly into your neurons so that you can have a sensation. That is possible. There's a few different options here, and they're all pretty invasive, and they're not all that refined yet. Perhaps the more important part at this point is knowing that our brains can adjust, even at the individual neuron level. And for mice, they have no idea what's going on. They're just being dropped into a virtual world where the laws of physics are different, and they too can adjust. Yes, mice when they're in a virtual reality, and this is an optical one that's fully immersive, so they're running on a little treadmill, they can start teleporting themselves in-game once they learn that it gives them a benefit. Also, incidentally, that live mice, yes, with the brain still in the skull, could be used for some forms of computation, which is interesting, to say the least. I'm not entirely sure how valuable knowing this information is. I mean, they're not like tiny GPUs, but yeah. And with mice, we have demonstrated that we can make them believe they're in a space that they're not presently in. They're having a controlled hallucination that replicates that space. This involves taking repeated brain recordings while they're in a room and then later activating those areas of the brain and they start behaving as though they are in that room. Say if a feeder is on the left, they'll go walk over to the feeder and wonder why there's no food. Now, only some of these studies are in people, and many of them have been for, say, loss of vision, loss of smell, and the one we're more familiar with, loss of hearing. So we don't actually know how this is going to behave if it were in a virtual reality. Right now, it's extraordinarily invasive, and it's not something you would really want to do unless you had a loss of function, but the technology is getting better. I'm interested to know that it is at least possible. I am really of the mind that giving people recreational brain chips is unethical. Yes, if it's going to restore function, that's understandable, but one of the reasons it takes so long to get science to treatment is because there's a lot of problems. Something can fail. There might be a better technology that shows up 5 minutes later, or you may discover a huge pitfall, and that can do real damage to human beings. But we are talking risk of corrosion and needing to go in for brain surgery repeatedly to repair electrodes that have fallen away from the brain. So these are not simple things, and if it can be solved with an EEG, it probably should be. But one of the problems with that is that just having a cap on your head is not going to be bidirectional. So a lot of the technologies I'm talking about here are bidirectional. You can communicate with it, it can communicate with you. And I will be very clear, people did not need a whole chip in direct contact with their brain in order to operate a computer. It is just unnecessary. So what do you think? Would you have an invasive piece of hardware put in so that you could play a video game? Because I'll be honest, I've been excited about this kind of technology since I was a little kid, and it's really exciting to see it become a reality. However, I don't think I would get it. And lastly, yeah, we are kind of working on creating the Matrix here.